Hey everybody, this is Rob Keynes with goldsilverpros.com. It is Wednesday, August 4th, 2021. We have a very special event coming to you pretty soon, and I'm going to show you that here. It is the Money Metals Summit 2021. This is our very special conference, the second annual of the Money Metal Summit. We started it last year and had so much fun, we decided we wanted to do it again this year. The speakers are set. We have the speakers and the schedule. If you want information on that, you can go here to hoppin.com, events, Money Metal Summit. That link is down below in the description for you guys. You can take a look. You can register for free if you attend virtually to the conference. And as a very special bonus this year, we have a conference room at a very nice 4-star hotel in the Dallas-Fort Worth area for the first day of the conference, August 19th. If you guys want to attend in person, we've had a lot of people already registered for this. We expect to see a nice, intimate crowd of people in which when they come, are going to provide them dinner and regular beverages. Of course, there'll be a cash bar if you want to get alcohol drinks at the event that you can exercise. But for the price of your ticket, you get in and you have the option of having dinner in the after-hour session and joining me for the after-hour session. Now, we do have some very special guests coming from all over the country to join me in this after-hour session from 5:30 to 7:30. We look forward to seeing you there at the event. If you're going to be in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, we've got all of the information for you right here about how to attend and the benefits that you get, and you can register here. Again, the virtual tickets are absolutely free. You can attend from your computer anywhere in the world. It's going to be from about 12 to 7:30 the first day, Central Time here in the United States, and then 12 to 5 on August 20th as well. I wanted to show you some of the speakers and preview some of the speakers that are going to be at the conference and talk about that. And I wanted to talk about first a very special guest we had on the program several months ago in May, David Hunter, who's a contrarian macro strategist. We're going to go back and revisit his interview that we did and some of the points that he made and see how he did several months later, whether his calls were correct. And we're going to update you on some of the things that he talked about with some current data and some current charts so that you know basically what is going on. So let's go ahead and get started on that. I've got a very special segment that we're going to start off with. Let me start the share again with sound. I need to do this every time. Here we go. All right, we got the sound queued up. We're going to share this with you. And I think David makes a very important point about inflation here and essentially what's going to happen to the economy. We're going to listen to a few minutes, and then we're going to come back and revisit and look at some data since he made this claim in May and see if he's actually correct. Here we go.
So let's get started there. What is your view long-term on the economy? Where do you see us being? Are we at the end of this big stock market bull run that we've had over the last 10, 11 years, or where do we sit right now?
Sure. Yeah, I am out there saying that this is the end of a 39-year secular bull market. And I date it back to 1982 simply because that was kind of the start of disinflation. You know, we peaked inflation in the 81-82 period. And then over the course of the last 4 decades have ratcheted inflation down to where it got to essentially zero. Now we're seeing it move back up, and rates have followed all of that. So it's been really, with inflation coming from 20% down to close to zero, interest rates followed, and market multiples are the inverse of interest rates. So you basically have had 40 years of wind at your back with PE multiples moving up because inflation and rates were moving down. So that's the essence of why I think the secular bull market started in 82. I could date it back to 74 because we had, you know, a lower low back then and then higher low in 82. But I'm really tying it in with the disinflation. And so my view is we're in the last year of that 39-year secular bull, and in the end part of a big long cycle like that, the market will tend to go parabolic at the end, and I think that's what we're seeing. You know, certainly we've had quite a parabolic move from March if you step back, but I think it's going to even get steeper here in the next couple months.
All right, so I want to check on that first part by looking at the Dow and the S&P and see if he's correct. So he was saying from March to May, when we recorded this interview on May 21st, that the markets had started to rise sharply, and he thought they were going to continue to do it for several months. And I've graphed out here a stock chart, the two indexes. I've graphed out the Dow Jones Industrial, which is the red line, and then also the S&P 500, which is the black line. And you can see they're basically mirror copies of each other. They did continue to go up, as he said, from March to when he recorded in May. And then they continued the exact same trend line, almost not breaking at all the trend line up through the current point. And it does look like they're starting to slow down a bit. I'm going to play more of his interview here because he mentions that, but his call looked pretty good, I think. Let's listen to more of what he has to say.
So I'm looking for 4,700 on the S&P, probably second or third quarter. So it could still happen if it happened fast in the second quarter, but more likely probably spills into the third quarter. And then on the other side of that.
So we'll get into his price target is 4,700. It did peak around 4,500. So that was a pretty good call. He got pretty close to where it had topped out here. So that's actually an amazing call by him. He's been doing this a long time. It's why we had him on the program. And he did a great job in this interview of basically calling what was going to happen to the economy this year. We'll show you several other segments of the video, but let's continue on this thread on what's going on in the economy in the middle part of 2021.
And so this is the end of an economic cycle that started in 2008-9, of course, or started in 2009. But I'm looking on the other side of that for a deflationary bust. So we likely, I think, starting before this year is out, begin what I define a bust as something that's perhaps as bad in many ways as a depression, but more the speed of a recession. So I think it probably gets contained pretty much through 2022. But it will be the first deflationary downturn, global deflationary downturn, in my opinion, that we've seen since the Great Depression. Will be fast. We won't. It's not like a drawn out 8 or 10 year deflationary period. Probably be contained, like I said, within 2022. So then we start a recovery cycle by 2023, and I think that recovery cycle will be an industrial-driven, inflation-driven cycle. So
okay, so we're going to stop it right there. He thinks on the downside of this, we are going to have some point in time starting this year a crash. It's going to be relatively quick. It's going to be a depressionary level crash, a relatively depressionary level crash. It starts off as a recession, and then that will be contained in 22 through policy actions and just economic recovery. And then 2023, we're going to start an upcycle, and listen to what he says is going to happen during that upcycle.
Unlike the last 40 years that have been consumer driven, disinflation driven, or disinflationary, this one will be more what we're seeing now, where it's going to be, commodities and industrial will start taking the lead. And I think this is kind of a wild call, but I think in that period, 23 to 2030, you could see interest rates and inflation retrace the last 40 years. So you could be back to 20% inflation rates and 15% long bond within.
Yeah, so he's talking about having high inflation there. And I think it's a pretty good point. We have had some high inflation. We've seen it in the commodities index. We've seen it hit, the energy prices. We'll get into some of those charts here in a moment because we've got some additional segments. But David really made an awesome call there in terms of where we see the stock markets overall and where the economy is going. Now, whether or not we start that deflationary bust that he talked about that would happen maybe in third or fourth quarter this year and extend through 2022, we'll have to see. He's going to talk about that at the conference. He's going to talk about that during his presentation. And the great thing is, if we go back to the conference, he's opening up the conference. So he'll be the first speaker at the conference on day one, starts at 12 p.m. Central Time on August 19th. And he's going to give us opinion. His talk is titled "Fed Will Be Caught by Inflation or a Market Crash." And he's going to update us on his thoughts there. And I would stay tuned to that. That sounds like it's going to be an interesting presentation. There's a reason we put him at the very beginning of the conference, because we want that view to set the tone for what's going to come, the rest of the speakers and the content for the rest of the conference. We want him to lead off because he had such great calls as a macroeconomist and as a contrarian, and we want to get that update. So we're going to go to another part of the video. He's going to talk about inflation, what the effects of the inflation are, and what he thinks is going to happen. And then we're going to look at some additional charts.
Yeah, and getting to your comment about Powell mentioning transitory, Do you think he's using transitory to sort of manage the market a little bit here? And do you think they really know that the potential inflation problem they have on the horizon is worse than what they're letting on?
Yeah, I'll say this. I really believe, and I was probably one of Jay Powell's biggest critics back in 2018 and 19, because he was behind the curve. And I kept saying, this guy isn't even an economist. He's really learning on the job. And, I was very much against the tightening that they were doing in 2018. And
all right, so he's given his opinion on Jay Powell and his early moves as the Fed chair in 2018 when they started to tighten. In 2018, when they started to tighten, we saw that 20% market correction. I covered that quite a bit on our channel, and he was right. I mean, that was, I think we're past the point of no return where you do any tightening, you're going to cause the market to crash. It's addicted to the drug of the easy credit and the easy money, and I agree with David there. Now, in a turn to energy and commodities, we're going to fast forward to the 22-minute mark here. He's got an interesting take on energy and commodities, which I agree with. And I think he had a really good call here, which we're going to go back and review.
Time they were in much better shape. Australia's kind of similar story. Asia in general, I mean, China's leveraged to the hilt. We know.
Is it 22, 24? Let me get to the right spot. There we go. Here we go.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask you about the energy commodities complex. We've seen some inflation in a lot of the energy so far this year. It's one of the leading sectors in the Bloomberg Commodities Index. Of course, oil, natural gas have all seen sharp increases. What do you think happens to them after the downturn? Do you think we have an overall deflationary move in the prices of those, or do you think that it just launches higher?
Yeah, I'll get into a shorter term talk about oil, but just to answer that, I am calling for probably later this decade, so in the 2026, 7, 8 period, I expect oil to be north of $300 a barrel. So I fully expect oil to be one of the leaders of the next cycle. Mm-hmm. Commodities in general are going to be the big leaders of the next cycle, and I would say you could see $10 again in the bust. So it's going to be.
All right. So what he's talking about there is the energy complex and the rise in prices of commodities. So he had a couple of really good calls during this interview. We talked about the commodity index leading the next charge, and it's already started. So I've talked about this as well on my channel dating back to January. So if you look at just a year-to-date chart here on the commodities complex, we've had a really strong increase in the prices of commodities from about 731.59 to the current print of about 894.901. And if you look at a 3-year time frame, you had that dip in 2020 when the economies around the world were shut down, and then boom, you've had this explosion way past where they were prior the economic shutdowns in 2020. And if you go out to a 5-year chart, you can see that we had just this really not strong increase in commodity prices, sort of a lazy increase in commodity prices, and then after the restart, just bam, popping through 5-year indexes. And David was really right on that, and specifically the energy chart. If you look at Y-Chart's energy price index, you can see where we've been over the last year. Over the last year, we've gone from 62.92 on the overall commodities to 97.66. So that's about over a 50% increase in the broad energy price index. And so his call of possibly having really expensive oil could occur, because think about what happened. We had the shutdowns, and then commodity prices exploded. He's saying we're going to have another economic issue, a financially caused or a general economic malaise starting later this year through 2022. So we would expect prices to come down. And then he's saying there's another explosion, but this time a bigger explosion. That seems to follow the trend we saw after the shutdowns in 2020. Economy shuts down, restarts, you have the base effect, you have the destruction of supply because companies are shutting down, people are being laid off. Then you have that expansion. But he says we're going to have an even bigger bust starting perhaps later this year and then recovering in 2023. So that would mean an even bigger explosion in the commodities price index. That's basically what he's saying. I think his call is actually pretty darn good. And now we want to talk about what is the end game. So he's talked about what's going to happen in the next couple of years. What's your longer term view, David, on the economy? What's the end game for the economy? Are we going to survive all this? Do we balance it out? Do they save it? Or does something else happen? Let's get his opinion on that.
But the first thing that's going to come is money. And the first many trillion that the Fed shovels out the door isn't going to stop anything. So they come with another several trillion. Doesn't stop anything. And there's a lag to when anything happens anyway. So it's pretty predictable that if it took moving from 3.5 trillion to 7.5 trillion for what happened at last March, it's easily going to go from, let's say, 8 trillion to, it could be 20 or it could be 30 trillion. Because I think we are looking at a system that will look like it's totally collapsing. Major banks are going under. They'll declare moratoriums. They'll do everything they can to keep the system intact, but it's not going to feel like that for a period of time, whether that's months or weeks or months. But it's going to be a period where the central bankers have no playbook for this. They have a little.
All right. So what he said there is the central bankers have no playbook for what's coming next. So we're going to have that economic downturn. We're going to have an explosion back to the upside, which is going to be led in the commodity prices, the overall consumer prices. And then the Fed has no playbook for what comes next. That's the big crash. That's what we've been talking about in relatively the same time frame. We said that would probably start about the middle of this decade. We've been saying that now for a couple of 3 years. I think David's aligned with us in terms of what he sees. So it's interesting when you have a couple of different economists with similar backgrounds, but different data sets like myself and David, we see the same thing basically happening. Again, that's why we're having at the Money Metal Summit Conference, because I think it's a fantastic call. I thought it was a fantastic call when he came on the program, and it's great to have him at the conference discussing that with us. And I wanted to turn to real quickly, a quick note on a company that we're following that's also going to be at the conference is Silver Tiger Metals. So let's talk about Silver Tiger. They have intersected 2,063.3 grams per ton of silver equivalent over a half a meter within a broader interval of 10.8 meters, grading 368.6 grams per ton in the drill hole right here. Silver Tiger Metals accompanied this in the soy vein, or found this in the soy vein within a broad interval, the soy vein section 442.5N. And here are the drill results that you can see on their website, Silver Tiger Metals, on their latest press release. And they give you an update to the drill hole results table. Glenn Jessam, the CEO, said, large step outside drill hole 231 on the soy vein continued to deliver high-grade silver intercepts, and the discovery of the crackle breccia zone in the soy hanging wall is another important discovery at El Tigre. El Tigre is their primary deposit, which they're doing all of this work on. And you can see the soy vein here in the El Tigre area and how far down it goes. We like Silver Tiger. We've had them on the program before. They are mining at the historic El Tigre mining district in Sonora, Mexico, which is a really nice mining district. So we wanted to give them a mention because, again, they're going to be at the conference. You see the Silver Tiger right here. They are going to have a booth, and they're going to be speaking at the conference. So if you're interested in the mining stocks, we have a lot of companies there for you that you can discuss with. You can join the booth. The gold ones will be doing presentations at the conference. And we also have a private investor session. If you're interested in the private investor session, you sign up on the form listed below under private investor session in the description. We'll get you into a special room at the conference that only you can attend, or we're going to have a lot of companies presenting there talking about their prospects if you're interested in that. We also have a very special guest. I'm going to be producing a movie and helping to produce a movie called The Money Game, which is designed to educate people on the economy, but in a way in which most people can understand. So we're going to get rid of some of the technical jargon, bring in some stories and allegory, have some good, well-established actors in this movie, and we're going to produce it for the people for distribution at theaters, so that people can understand what's going on in the economy before this big bust that David and I think is going to happen here about the middle of this decade, where we're going to have the big economic crash. We're going to have one last hurrah of the dollar, and then comes the big economic crash and the Austrian crack up boom cycle that we've been talking about for quite a while. So we're doing the movie because we want to educate people. They'll be there at the private investor session. We'll also have a public session that we're discussing with the director and the producer of the movie as well. You guys don't want to miss that. That's going to be a lot of fun. And that is going to be, let's look to see when that's going to be at the conference. That is going to be, I believe, let's go to the 20th. If you want to attend that presentation on the movie, it is right there. It's going to be The Money Game, 2:30 to 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. We're going to talk about that. We'll have a great conversation with the producer and the director of the movie about the money game. And if you're interested in putting money into that as an investor, as an educational piece, and also there are potential really great rates of return on that. Anybody that's been involved in Hollywood knows this. You'll have that opportunity at the conference. Thank you guys so much for paying attention today. I think we had a really great review of David's presentation, how correct he has been up until this point. And at the conference, we're going to get his update on what's going to happen in the economy the rest of this year and in 2022, and whether he's going to be correct on that. We want to hear his updated presentation. It's critical for you guys to attend that session leading off the conference to get your macro view. David's been right so far. We agree with him. And then we're going to have a lot of other content at that conference for you guys. I'm going to be doing some more of these sessions leading up to the conference where we look back at some of the speakers that are going to be at the conference, what they said and how they did. And then we're going to get that update here in a couple of weeks going forward of what they think is going to happen in the economy, the gold and silver sector, some of the mining stocks as well, that what the Fed's going to do, interest rates, commodities prices, inflation, all of those things that we like to look at on the channel. That is coming to you at the conference 19th and 20th. Remember, you can register for free virtually, link below, or you can attend in Dallas-Fort Worth, a select small group of people that we're going to have there. We want to keep it really private and intimate for those that either want to travel or live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We have very limited signups. If you want to do that, jump on that right now. We're just charging $30 for that. We're paying about half of your cost for dinner there. And for you to attend at the conference room, you pay the other half, and then you get to sit in front and listen to me and interview a lot of the speakers, listen to company presentations, and also attend that after-hours session where we do an in-person Q&A that will also be broadcast to the rest of the attendees around the world, but you'll be able to see it in person, ask me questions in person, shake my hand, have a drink with me afterwards if you wish. It's going to be a ton of fun. Looking forward to it, guys. Stay tuned. Tomorrow, we have a very special presentation over an opportunity in the mining sector that we think you like. And then Friday, I'm going to come back and do more content like this, where we look at a speaker, look at their predictions, grade out how they did on the predictions, preview the conference. And we're going to continue doing that leading up to the conference for the next couple of weeks. We think you're going to get a lot out of it. And this is an appreciation for you guys. We do all of this research and bring these guest speakers on the channel and at the conference to help you out. A lot of this is free to you. We do it for your benefit. We, of course, appreciate you attending these presentations, being a part of the wonderful community that we have here on YouTube and on our other social media, and also our website subscribers as well. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up, guys. Thank you so much for joining us on Gold Silver Pros. This has been Rob Keats. Until next time.